In a silent Amish farmhouse tucked deep within Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, the night holds a stillness rarely found in the modern world. No humming refrigerators, no buzzing streetlights, only the creak of timber and the faint rustle of wind through cornfields. But that silence is abruptly broken just after midnight. Eli Yoder, a 78-year-old farmer with a back curved from decades of manual labor, jolts upright in his bed, gasping. His right calf has seized into a steel-hard knot, the pain shooting through his leg with punishing force. There's no cry for help. His wife, Anna, remains asleep beside him, used to these moments. Eli grips his lower leg, teeth clenched, breath shallow. But instead of reaching for painkillers or calling a doctor, luxuries outside his world, he swings his legs over the side of the bed and reaches for a small, unlabeled brown glass bottle tucked beneath his nightstand. Inside is a pungent liquid, cloudy and golden brown, that smells of vinegar and something sharper, earthier. He uncaps the bottle, tips it to his lips, and swallows just one mouthful. The taste is brutal, acidic, garlicky, with a burn that trails down the throat and clings to the chest. Eli has taken this same dose every time the cramps strike, sometimes multiple times a week, for the last 30 years. He knows the routine. Within 60 seconds, the vice grip in his calf begins to loosen. Another minute, and he exhales deeply, the muscle relaxing under the warm weight of the remedy. With practiced hands, he caps the bottle, slips it back into its hiding place, and eases himself under the covers again. This isn't medicine in the modern sense. There's no brand name, no barcode, no dosage instructions. But within Amish communities like Eli's, this crude tonic is as essential as bread or prayer. Passed down through generations, it's a rare bridge between folk wisdom and biological efficacy. Some outsiders call it Amish muscle tonic, or stops leg cramps remedy. But here, it's simply the cure. Eli doesn't question how it works. He only knows it does. And he's not alone. Across Old-Order settlements from Ohio to Indiana, the same midnight ritual unfolds, often in silence, often in pain. But what is this strange elixir? And how did such a powerful remedy come to exist in a society that rejects modern science and pharmaceuticals? As morning light begins to seep into Eli's room, casting golden beams across the hand-sewn quilt, a deeper story unfolds, one rooted in survival, secrecy, and the stubborn preservation of tradition. The next step is understanding the scale of the problem the Amish tonic aims to solve, and why so many in the outside world are starting to take notice. The epidemic is silent, but widespread. Across the United States, over 60% of adults aged 50 and older report experiencing chronic nighttime leg cramps, painful, involuntary muscle contractions that can last from seconds to several agonizing minutes. These episodes strike suddenly, often in the early hours before dawn, disrupting sleep and leaving lingering soreness that can persist into the next day. For some, it's a rare annoyance. But for millions, especially those with physical jobs, circulatory issues, or nutrient deficiencies, these cramps become a nightly battle. The causes are many: dehydration, low magnesium, nerve compression, and side effects from medications. Yet despite their prevalence, treatment remains elusive. Modern medicine offers little more than hydration advice, stretching routines, and, in rare cases, prescription muscle relaxants, drugs that often cause drowsiness, dependency, or other side effects. Amid this landscape of half measures and unanswered questions, a curious solution has emerged, not from a lab, but from a lifestyle frozen in time. Among Old-Order Amish communities, where electricity is shunned and pharmaceuticals are regarded with deep suspicion, a powerful remedy has circulated quietly for generations. It's not found on store shelves, and few outside these insular communities have ever seen it being made. But when leg cramps strike, whether after a day of plowing fields by horse or sewing dresses by hand, the remedy is there. Raw, pungent, and astonishingly fast. The contrast is striking. While urban dwellers search Google at 2 a.m. for answers, Eli Yoder and his kin reach for a bottle they've used for decades. And while hospitals explore magnesium infusions and neurological triggers, Amish elders already trust a combination of ingredients with centuries of folk medicine behind them. There's a deeper wisdom at play, part biology, part tradition, that's only now beginning to attract the attention of the outside world. Over the last decade, as Amish-made goods have entered boutique wellness markets, whispered rumors of the Amish cramp cure have surfaced on internet forums, YouTube testimonials, and niche health blogs. One striking detail stands out. In communities where this remedy is regularly used, nighttime cramps are rarely spoken of as a chronic issue. Elders in Holmes County, Ohio, a dense Amish settlement, claim they don't suffer as the English do, referring to non-Amish outsiders. They don't credit this to superior health or divine intervention, but to the tonic, always taken at the first sign of a twitching muscle. They say it calms the blood, heats the legs, or makes the limbs sleep easy. While their language is non-medical, the results are real. But how did such a remedy take shape in a culture cut off from mainstream science? And why do its ingredients, simple, strong, and unpleasant, work so well when modern treatments so often fail? To understand that, we need to travel deeper into the daily life of an Amish family who not only use the tonic, but still make it by hand, the way their ancestors did. In Holmes County, under the low eaves of a white-clapboard farmhouse, the Stoltzfus family continues the practice, not for profit, but to serve their own. And it begins with the harvest of 3 pungent roots that no one in the house enjoys, but no one would ever be without. At first glance, it doesn't look like medicine. The cloudy golden liquid swirls thickly in the jar, giving off a scent that's both acrid and earthy. Part salad dressing, part soil after rain. But to those who've used it, the mixture is unmistakable. This is the Amish muscle tonic, a traditional remedy whose recipe is guarded, memorized, and passed down not through books, but through careful, deliberate demonstration. The base is always the same: raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar. Into this, the maker stirs 2 potent juices, one from freshly grated ginger root, and another from crushed raw garlic cloves. No sugars, no preservatives, no cooking. The result is a harsh, biting liquid that burns slightly going down and leaves a lingering heat in the throat and chest. It is not made for comfort. It is made to stop pain fast. The Stoltzfus family, like many others in their Amish district, refer to the drink simply as the mix. They don't advertise it. They don't sell it in local markets. Each household brews its own version, adjusting ratios depending on who will be drinking it. For an elder, they might double the garlic for added circulation benefits. For a child prone to muscle spasms after long buggy rides, they ease up on the ginger's intensity. It is medicine by instinct, refined over time by observation, prayer, and trial. The ingredients may seem rustic, but there is science in the mix, whether or not the makers speak in those terms. Apple cider vinegar contains acetic acid, which has been shown to aid in magnesium and calcium absorption, 2 minerals crucial for muscle function and cramp prevention. Ginger is rich in gingerol, a compound with anti-inflammatory properties known to help relax tight or overstimulated muscles. And garlic, with its active compound allicin, promotes blood flow and may assist in reducing nerve excitability, one of the suspected triggers for nocturnal cramps. Combined, these ingredients form a crude but potent triad, designed not to taste good, but to act fast. While Western medicine leans on single compounds in pill form, the Amish tonic relies on a holistic storm of natural chemicals working together in their rawest state. Yet for the Stoltzfus family, the ritual of making the remedy carries meaning beyond its effectiveness. There is a reverence in its preparation. Ginger roots are selected from specific sellers at the local bulk food store, ideally thick, knotted specimens with oily yellow flesh. Garlic is grown on their own land, harvested in late summer, then hung in braids to dry in the barn loft. The vinegar comes from a neighbor's orchard press, cloudy with mother strands, stored in tall jugs sealed with wax. No single ingredient is synthetic. Nothing is rushed. This isn't a supplement. It's a legacy. A practice born long before refrigeration or emergency care, in a time when a nighttime cramp could mean injury, infection, or loss of mobility during critical farm work. In the old days, a fall in the dark might lead to a limp for life. A muscle locked tight during a morning harvest could delay feeding the horses or milking the cows. The stakes were real. Pain wasn't just discomfort, it was disruption. And so, out of necessity, The Amish created a tool of resilience. Something strong, shelf-stable, and always within reach. Still, not every household makes it the same way. Recipes vary slightly, and some add trace amounts of honey, horseradish, or even turmeric. But the core always remains unchanged: vinegar, ginger, garlic. 3 ancient roots brought together in service of uninterrupted rest. And while outsiders might flinch at the flavor, for those who rely on it, the taste is secondary. It's the silence that follows, the stillness of muscles at peace, that matters most. As the Stoltzfus family prepares another batch at their kitchen table, the Rayol story begins to unfold in the hands that crush, grate, and mix, echoing movements first made generations ago. In the heart of Holmes County, Ohio, home to one of the largest Amish settlements in the world, the Stoltzfus family begins their day well before sunrise. The rhythmic creak of wagon wheels, the dull thump of hooves on packed earth, and the soft clang of enamel pots echo across the still valley. While the English world still sleeps behind digital alarms and climate-controlled homes, Eli Stoltzfus has already hauled water, milked 2 cows, and chopped wood for the stove. But inside the white-painted farmhouse, something more delicate is underway. His wife Miriam, their eldest daughter Leah, and Leah's husband Daniel, are setting up for what the family refers to simply as batching day. Their kitchen is sparse. No refrigerator, no running water. But it is immaculate and organized down to the inch. A large wooden table, scoured smooth from years of use, holds the essential ingredients: a burlap sack of garlic bulbs, fresh ginger root wrapped in cheesecloth, and a tall jug of cloudy apple cider vinegar sealed with beeswax. There is no recipe card, no measuring tools beyond a dented ladle and the practiced eyes of the women who learned by watching. The process is not written down. It never has been. Miriam peels the garlic with swift, practiced hands, her fingers stained slightly from years of herbal preparations. Each clove is trimmed and dropped into a hand-cranked grinder, its scent rising sharp and sulfuric into the cool morning air. Leah works the ginger next, grating it on a flat wooden board and gathering the pulp in linen to be squeezed by hand. No blenders, no juicers. Just pressure, patience, and muscle memory. The pungent juices are poured into a wide-mouthed stone crock, and finally, the vinegar is added in slow, deliberate streams. The scent is immediately intense, bracing, almost medicinal, a physical thing that fills the room and clings to clothing for hours. The mix is stirred with a long-handled wooden spoon that's been used for this one task for nearly 15 years. Eli watches from the corner, nodding approvingly. He knows every step. He remembers the first time he made the tonic with his own mother, back when the garlic came from a different field and the vinegar from an older orchard. But today, it is Leah who leads the process. It is her turn to carry on the tradition, her hands now shaping the remedy that will care for her own children, her neighbors, and her aging father. There is no ceremony, no words exchanged to mark the occasion, but the moment is not lost on anyone in the room. This is heritage, distilled and tangible. Outside, 2 younger children scrub the empty glass bottles in a galvanized wash basin. The bottles are reused from old herbal tinctures or salvaged from community trades, each one carefully boiled in a pot over the wood stove to ensure sterility. Labels are unnecessary. Families recognize their batches by the way they smell, by their consistency, or by a faint notch carved near the neck of the bottle. There is no market shelf to compete on, no brand to build, only trust and memory. By midday, the batch will be poured, sealed, and set in a cool pantry to rest. It does not need refrigeration. In fact, it grows stronger over time. Some families believe a tonic aged for 2 weeks has more potency than one used the same day. Others argue for freshness above all. But all agree on its role, a first defense against pain, one taken by the teaspoon in moments of need. Whether before bed or during the sting of a midnight cramp, this harsh liquid is welcomed without complaint. But even as the Stoltzfus family completes another flawless batch, they know that fewer and fewer Amish youth are learning the process. As the community grows and modern temptations inch closer, some remedies fall away. Still, for now, in this farmhouse, the chain remains unbroken. And as the final bottles are lined on a pantry shelf, the air still thick with vinegar and spice, one question looms quietly. What happens when this knowledge fades, or when the world outside decides it wants a taste? Long before Eli Stoltzfus ever took his first bitter sip from a vinegar bottle, the remedy already pulsed through the lifeblood of his community. In the days before any mention of apple cider vinegar was found on wellness blogs or health store shelves, Amish midwives and herbalists were recording results, not on paper, but in memory, through long winters and aching limbs. These were women who delivered babies by lamplight and treated fevers with poultices made from yarrow and comfrey. They knew which roots calmed the stomach, which leaves stopped bleeding, and which pungent mixtures kept farmers from collapsing with muscle spasms after 14-hour days in the field. The cramp remedy, as they passed it on, was never considered special. It was just part of the fabric of endurance. The need was simple but urgent. Amish labor was, and still is, unrelenting. Men walked behind plows for miles, gripping steel handles that vibrated through their forearms and calves. Women bent over washboards or kneeled for hours while planting, harvesting, or scrubbing. When the day ended, there were still chores: feeding livestock, mending clothes, canning food, caring for elders. At night, the body wasn't just tired, it was exhausted to the marrow. And that's when the cramps came. Without modern heating or instant hot water, soothing sore muscles required forethought. And when the sudden strike of a calf or foot cramp jolted someone awake, relief had to be immediate. There was no luxury of calling out or waking others. The solution had to be shelf-stable, strong, and silent. Over time, a pattern emerged. The same 3 ingredients appeared again and again in remedies used by healers across Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Indiana: ginger, garlic, and vinegar. Each had individual uses: garlic for circulation and infections, ginger for nausea and inflammation, vinegar for digestion and preservation. But when combined in a single drink, taken in tiny sips before bed or at the first hint of a muscle twinge, something powerful happened. The cramps stopped. Or if they came, they didn't last. Elders began to swear by it. Midwives began to recommend it. And young children, learning by watching, absorbed the routine as surely as they learned to tie their shoes or harness a horse. The knowledge was passed through family lines, often by grandmothers or aunts. There were no formal instructions, only phrases like, "enough ginger to warm your belly," or "just enough garlic to clear the nose." Adjustments were made seasonally. If a family had fresh horseradish, a sliver might be added for extra potency in the winter months. If vinegar supplies ran low, some used brine from pickled vegetables in a pinch. It was not about exact science. It was about observation, repetition, and the quiet understanding that pain could not be allowed to interfere with duty. And so, in a world without doctors on call, this remedy earned its place. It became a sort of communal contract, a promise that a cramp wouldn't stop a father from milking at dawn or a mother from kneading dough before sunrise. It was taken without drama, without ceremony. Just a grimace, a swallow, and a return to sleep. Even today, in more progressive Amish districts, the remedy survives. Some homes might now have propane stoves or gas refrigerators, but the batch is still made the old way. The knowledge persists because it works, not because anyone profits from it. And while modern science has only recently begun to investigate the bioactive compounds in garlic and ginger, the Amish have treated them as muscle medicine for generations. But survival knowledge does not always pass itself on. As fewer young families rely on midwives and more turn to English clinics, the oral chain grows thinner. Recipes get forgotten. Ratios get lost. And unless someone continues the work, the remedy risks becoming a memory. An old tale of something once made in kitchens with no clocks. For now, though, the Stoltzfus kitchen holds firm. The next generation watches closely, memorizing the pace, the quantities, the scent of balance. They may not write it down, but they will remember. Because when the pain comes, and it always does, they'll need more than a prayer. They'll need what their ancestors left behind. As the pale morning light filters through the muslin curtains of the Stoltzfus kitchen, the air is thick with purpose. Today is a batching day, and at the center of it stands Eli, sleeves rolled to the elbow, guiding his granddaughter Miriam through a task he's performed more times than he can count. The tools are simple: a hand-cranked grinder, a wooden pestle, a ceramic mixing bowl worn smooth by time. The ingredients, though humble, demand respect. This isn't a recipe. It's a rite. The balance must be exact, or the remedy's potency will suffer. Miriam, just 16, stands quietly, watching her grandfather begin. He starts with the ginger, thick, gnarled roots selected days ago for their strong aroma and high oil content. Using a paring knife, Eli shaves off the rough skin with quick, precise strokes, then slices the root into thin coins. "You don't rush ginger," he says in a voice that is gravelly but measured. "It's got heat in it, but only if you wake it right." He places the slices into the mortar and begins to grind, pressing in slow, circular motions that release a sharp, citrusy scent. The pestle turns golden as the juices emerge, and Miriam leans in slightly, eyes narrowed, absorbing not just the motion but the rhythm. Next comes the garlic, local, white-skinned, sharp enough to sting the eyes when crushed. Eli separates the cloves by hand, pausing only to inspect each one for spots or softness. No blemished garlic makes it into the batch. Once peeled, the cloves go into the grinder, and soon the room is thick with the sting of sulfur. Miriam flinches slightly, but says nothing. Her eyes water. Eli smiles faintly. "If you don't cry, it's not strong enough," he mutters. The final step is the vinegar. Raw, unfiltered and cloudy, it's drawn from a tall jug stored in the cool cellar beneath the house. The vinegar is poured slowly, not measured but judged by the color and scent as it reacts with the ginger and garlic pulp. Eli stirs the mixture with a wooden spoon so old the handle is warped, watching the color deepen to a muddy amber. A sudden swirl of scent rises, acidic, spicy, overwhelming. Miriam recoils slightly. Eli doesn't. "That's the moment," he says. "When it bites back, it's ready." Miriam takes her turn. Under Eli's watchful eye, she begins to grind a second round of ginger. Her strokes are unsure, her pace uneven, but she continues, sweat rising on her brow. The process is laborious, unrewarding to the untrained eye, but Eli watches closely. "No shortcuts," he reminds her. "If it's too smooth, it loses its fire." She nods, adjusts her grip, and continues. When she pours in the vinegar, she hesitates. The scent is overpowering. Her eyes close against the burn. But Eli nods slowly. "Good. That's the smell of no pain tonight." By late morning, the mixing is complete. The tonic sits thick and sludgy in its crock, covered with a cloth and left to rest for the afternoon. Later, it will be strained through muslin and poured into cleaned glass bottles. For now, Eli offers Miriam a small dose from the batch. She winces at the first sip, coughs, and presses her hand to her chest. "Burns," she whispers. Eli just nods again. "But you'll sleep easy." Moments like these are rare. Not just because the tonic is difficult to make, but because fewer young people are learning to do it right. Eli knows this. He's watched many in their district turn toward store-bought balms or pills from English pharmacies. But here, in this kitchen, tradition still holds. The grind of the pestle, the sting of garlic, the tearful strength of ginger, it's more than a recipe. It's a commitment. And now, with Miriam's hands stained and shaking, that commitment has passed to a new generation. Tomorrow, she'll try again. And the day after. Until the rhythm becomes her own. Until one night, someone in her own home jolts awake in pain, and she too will reach without thought for the bottle she made herself. While the preparation may be steeped in tradition, the effectiveness of the Amish cramp tonic is more than anecdotal. Though the Stoltzfus family wouldn't frame it this way, what they have crafted in their humble kitchen aligns closely with biochemical principles understood in modern nutritional science. Each ingredient in the formula plays a targeted role, operating on specific physiological systems responsible for muscle function and circulation. The remedy is not just folklore, it's chemistry, honed by instinct over generations. At the heart of the tonic lies apple cider vinegar, unfiltered and dense with acetic acid. While often used for digestive health, acetic acid also enhances the body's ability to absorb minerals such as magnesium and calcium, two key electrolytes that regulate muscle contractions. Magnesium, in particular, helps relax muscle fibers by blocking the influx of calcium ions that trigger contractions. A deficiency in magnesium is a well-documented cause of nocturnal leg cramps, especially in older adults or those with physically demanding routines. The vinegar, then, acts not as a direct treatment, but as a powerful enabler, making the other ingredients, and any dietary minerals consumed with them, more bioavailable. Then there's ginger, rich in gingerol, a pungent bioactive compound with anti-inflammatory and muscle relaxant properties. Gingerol functions similarly to non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, reducing the production of prostaglandins, chemicals that trigger inflammation and pain. But ginger doesn't blunt the nervous system the way modern painkillers do. Instead, it eases the tension, allowing over-contracted muscles to release without drowsiness or sedation. When taken at night, it acts gently, warming the limbs and restoring flexibility to tight joints and tendons. The third pillar of the remedy is garlic, specifically its potent component allicin, which is released when raw garlic is crushed or chopped. Allicin stimulates blood flow by dilating blood vessels, which can help carry oxygen and nutrients to fatigued muscles and remove the byproducts of strenuous physical activity. Improved circulation is essential when preventing or stopping cramps, especially those caused by reduced blood flow to the extremities during sleep. And because allicin degrades quickly with heat or time, the Amish insist on preparing the tonic fresh and never cooking the garlic, preserving its full potency. Together, these ingredients form a synergistic blend. Vinegar primes the body to absorb key minerals, ginger calms the inflammation and tension, and garlic boosts circulation to keep muscles nourished. While modern medicine often isolates and distills compounds into pills, the Amish rely on whole food potency, trusting that nature's complexity often holds more than the sum of its parts. And though they may not speak in terms like bioavailability or vasodilation, the Stoltzfus family knows the effects firsthand. They've watched the cramps fade. They've seen the elderly sleep through the night. They've prepared doses for neighbors after long days harvesting wheat or shoveling snow. Eli recalls giving a bottle to a visiting Mennonite who returned weeks later asking for more, sheepishly admitting it worked better than the creams he'd bought in town. The pain just stopped, he'd said, like a knot melting. In Amish homes, the proof is in the stillness of the night, the absence of sudden cries, the lack of limping at breakfast. And in a culture where health is judged by function, not diagnostics, that kind of relief speaks louder than any clinical trial. But even remedies grounded in biology must survive socially. The tonic's future depends not just on its effectiveness, but on its adoption by the next generation. In some homes, that chain of knowledge is fraying. In others, like the Stoltzfus household, it's still being passed, bottle by bottle, batch by batch. And while the ingredients are universal, the discipline to make them work requires a commitment few are willing to maintain. For now, the remedy holds. But what happens when a batch goes wrong? When ratios are misjudged, or a crucial route runs out? In the next phase of their story, the Stoltzfuses face exactly that, a brewing crisis in their own backyard. Among the Old-Order Amish, to rely on modern medicine is not only discouraged, it's often viewed as a failure of preparedness, a sign that a family has not honored its duty to protect and care for its own using the resources God and the land have provided. This unwritten code shapes everything from childbirth to pain management, and nowhere is it more evident than in the way leg cramps are handled. For outsiders, a cramp is a nuisance. For the Amish, it's a test of resilience. And if a remedy fails, the consequences ripple through more than just a night's sleep. They echo into the fields, the barns, and the community's sense of self-reliance. That's why the stakes are so high for the Stoltzfus family as they bottle each new batch of tonic. There's no pharmacy to back them up, no urgent care to call. If the remedy doesn't work, if a ratio is off or a route is spoiled, someone suffers, and suffers in silence. Because in this world, complaints are rare, and pain is endured quietly. Miriam knows this now, as she watches her grandfather test the latest batch with a sip and a grimace. It's strong, but is it strong enough? There's no test strip, no lab equipment to check for allicin content or gingerol levels. Only experience. Only memory. The remedy's effectiveness isn't just biological, it's spiritual. It represents continuity, obedience to Ordnung, the collective moral code that governs every aspect of Amish life. That code discourages reliance on the English world, including its medical system, except in cases of absolute necessity. To break with that tradition is to risk subtle isolation. So when Eli speaks of cramps, when he explains why the tonic matters, it's more than health. It's about honor. We don't turn outward unless we must, he says. God gave us what we need, but only if we use it right. There are limits, though. In extreme cases, deep vein thrombosis, diabetes-related neuropathy, or complications from infections, Amish families do seek medical help, usually through carefully negotiated arrangements with local clinics that respect their values. But for routine ailments, they rely on deeply rooted systems of trust, repetition, and natural care. Midwives still guide births. Bone setters still adjust twisted limbs. And for the simple, searing pain of a cramp in the night, the vinegar remedy still reigns. Yet even in this closed world, the boundary between tradition and necessity is not always clear. A cramp that lingers for days can mean lost labor, and a lost day in the growing season can mean a family goes without. The cost of failure isn't hypothetical. It's food, heat, and stability. This pressure creates a culture of precision. Ingredients must be correct. The process must be followed without shortcuts. And every bottle, no matter how humble, must work. That's why, when the family senses that a new batch isn't quite as effective as the last, they don't dismiss it. They question. They retrace steps. Did the garlic dry too long? Was the ginger root underripe? Did the vinegar come from a different source? Each variable is examined, not through charts or spreadsheets, but through shared memory, through conversations that feel more like oral audits than idle talk. Even the children are expected to remember the rules. Even Miriam, new to the work, knows the consequences of getting it wrong. But despite their commitment, not every ingredient is within their control. Crops can fail. Weather can shift. And when the land withholds, the Amish must make a decision that tests their cultural core. Turn to the English, or go without. That moment is coming for the Stoltzfussers, and it will challenge not only their resourcefulness, but their identity. Because one ingredient, critical to the remedy's strength, is about to disappear from their fields. And in the Ordnung's quiet logic, how they respond will speak louder than the pain they seek to cure.